This might be one of the strangest addictions ever, and it might be silently killing people. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a psychotherapist and life coach. You might remember me from BBC One when I spoke about addiction recovery back in 2024. I think if I had continued this addiction, it honestly would have killed me. So our story begins when back in 2014, I was running a small in-game advertising startup at the time called Gift Gaming. I had been accepted to join University of Cambridge's Startup Accelerator, which gave me a lot of motivation and drive to succeed. I'd pull all-nighters, skipping meals, ignoring friends, even losing sleep, all to pursue my goal of building and selling a successful tech company. I thought it was passion, but it was something much, much darker. And then one day, I finally realized what my strange but crippling addiction was. I was addicted to coding. That's right, computer programming. This might sound a little bit lame as addictions go, but to give you an idea of how bad things got, I would spend the whole day coding in my underwear. I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink water, I wouldn't even go to the bathroom. I also developed IBS and gut issues from my frenzied coding. I was also suffering from heart palpitations and having to see a cardiologist. Now here's what makes this addiction silent but deadly. So as a programmer, if I put lots of hours in, I might get paid overtime. I might get praised by my boss, might even get promoted or get a bonus. So nobody would ever think that I need help. The other thing that can make this addiction deadly is the fact that it causes a lot of lost sleep and also really high stress levels. Both of these things massively increase the risk of either having a heart attack or a stroke. Now, what I did next might shock some viewers. The point where I knew I'd hit rock bottom was when I realized that I was yelling at my mum's cat while still in my underwear because the cat wanted to be fed. It hadn't been fed for the whole day because I was so busy coding. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I have a real problem here. I haven't even fed the cat because I'm so obsessed with getting this code working. So I started Googling and eventually I came across a 12-step recovery program, which was like Alcoholics Anonymous, but was designed for people who had problems with work. After the meeting, I met with this old-timer in recovery, and we'll call him, Bob. And Bob said to me, Nick, if you want to recover from this addiction, you have to be willing to go to any length. Are you willing to do that? And I said yes, without really meaning it. Now keep watching because what Bob said is going to be really important later. Eventually, I knew what I had to do. I had to give up all programming and tech work. And in some ways, to a normal person, this seemed like madness, especially as I had racked up over £21,000 in student debt for my bachelor's degree in computer science. But I also remember what that old-timer Bob had said, which was I had to go to any length. And that meant stepping away from some of my tech startups. Some of these startups I'd raised hundreds of thousands of pounds in investment for. And now I truly understand what Bob said. Going to any length may mean doing something extreme or extraordinary. For example, I know some guys who are so serious and dedicated to breaking their addiction to adult content that they've actually replaced their smartphones with those old school Nokia brick phones. Oh yeah, that's great corn. What? Don't judge a man because he watches a bit of corn. Likewise, you too may need to do something radical if you're really serious about beating that bad habit or that addiction. If social media is your addiction, then going to any length might mean deleting your social media accounts and blocking all social media, or it may even mean turning to prayer or God, even if you're spiritually allergic or a militant atheist like I used to be. And this might sound very strange, but there's countless stories in this book, Came to Believe, which contains lots of stories from members of Alcoholics Anonymous who had intense spiritual experiences that cured them of their alcoholism. So Don't knock prayer or spiritual approaches until you've tried it. This counterintuitive principle, which I'm about to share next, is really important. The way that I broke free was to admit that I did not have self-control over coding, just like a crack addict doesn't have self-control over how much crack they use and so forth. Ironically, by admitting powerlessness, I was actually able to get my power back again. I had to accept that my willpower alone could not stop me from programming obsessively and compulsively. I had experimented with enough different solutions to realize that I cannot do programming in moderation, and that total abstinence was far easier and safer than trying to moderate my usage. In fact, one of the first steps of 12-step recovery is we admitted we were powerless over our addiction and our lives had become unmanageable. Now, of course, this is only the first step of recovery, but it's a really important one, and it was one step that was really important and crucial for my own journey. So the admission of powerlessness is recognizing that this addiction is much stronger than you. Certainly for me, I recognized that this programming addiction was an absolute beast. And if I tried to tackle that beast all by myself, then it would just get me into a headlock and just pummel the living daylights out of me. Admitting powerlessness goes also beyond just recognizing that willpower alone is not enough. It's also recognizing that you need outside support. And for me, I really benefited from having my 12-step recovery group as well as a good psychotherapist. The truth is, anything can become an addiction, whether it's coffee, social media, YouTube, or even my videos. And if you are addicted to my videos, then definitely do not hit that like and subscribe button. But really, the question is, are you powerless over the vice that you're using? Is it causing your life to be unmanageable? In which case, you may well need some outside help, because addiction is a powerful beast. And to quote Zelda, it's dangerous to go alone. A story I often tell my clients in coaching and psychotherapy is, imagine you're swimming out at sea. Now, it's easy to swim at sea when you're by yourself, when the water is calm. But what happens when that water starts to get really choppy? What happens if a big storm comes along and then suddenly you've got these 10 feet high waves thrashing you around? Well, what are your chances of survival then? Most likely you're not going to survive. And that's the way I kind of see addiction recovery. So yes, you can try to do it alone, but you're probably going to find at some point you're going to get into some serious emotional difficulty. And that's where you really need a support network. Maybe that might be a 12-step recovery group. It might also be having a psychotherapist like myself. If you need an affordable therapist, then you might want to check out onlinetherapy.com, where you can see a therapist every week for 45 minutes, and it will only cost you $75 or £50 per week. If you use my affiliate link in the comments under the description below, then you'll get 20% off your first month, and I'll get to earn some commission to help me support this channel. So many people will not be able to recover from their bad habit or addiction until they understand this next really simple but really important principle. As a mental health professional, I put people with addictions into two camps: the spiralers and the non-spiralers. The non-spiralers are actually able to moderate to some degree. They can use a bit and then they can stop. No problem. The spiralers, however, once they start, they simply cannot stop. As soon as they have a little bit, they need a lot. Once they've gotten on that crazy train, there is no telling when or where that train will stop. And when it does stop, it's often an absolute disaster. In my case, I was certainly in the spiralist camp. I could certainly not do any programming in moderation. A little bit of coding would easily become 3 hours or even 12 hours of coding. And before I know it, I'm not eating, sleeping, or even going to the bathroom. Back into the spiral I would go. It was like an alcoholic saying, I'll just have one drink. And of course, that one drink then spirals into many, many drinks. Now, if you are in the spiralers camp, then your best option is to just give that thing up altogether. Now, of course, it's a little bit more complicated if it's something like food or work because, well, we can't not work, we can't not eat. And this is where identifying things like trigger foods, like trigger activities are really important. So pay attention. Are there certain kind of behaviors that you notice, hey, this seems to send me into a bit of a tailspin? Maybe that could be having a slice of cake. Perhaps you end up having to eat the whole cake. Addictions don't always look like what we expect. Sometimes they hide in the things that we think are healthy, normal, or productive. Certainly, I thought it was positive that I would grind day and night when coding for my startups. Now, if you are trying to beat a bad habit or addiction, then there's a few things you should never do. And if you avoid doing these things, you have a much better chance of staying away from that bad habit and avoiding relapse. So watch my next video here, because this video could be really helpful. And remember to get professional support if you suffer from addictions.